What makes for a competitive personal statement? What are things people should write about? How do you stand out on the personal statement?
Well, we talked about this a little bit. I think, you want faculty reading this once you get a flavor of the person, not just your accomplishments, but who's the person behind the accomplishments. I think that's important. Maybe provide a specific example of something you've done that you're proud of, or even that you failed at, but and really make sure it's written well. To say the obvious, don't throw typos in there. It should be grammatically perfect, the whole thing.
Mm.
This is important. Let's not, as Daisy said, make sure that people who you think write extremely well have read it.
So, Barry, before you mentioned that your statement should not be a regurgitation of your CV, what should the relationship between the CV and the statement be?
Well, it can include aspects of your accomplishment. My take is that it shouldn't just be a recitation of your accomplishments. There's got to be some details, some feelings, you're applying to a clinical psychology program. So what's the nature of your interpersonal connections to people? What's your sense of, why this work is important to you? I want to know not what you've done, but why it's important to you, why you've done it, how you've done it, what you've overcome perhaps as an obstacle to getting where you are. It sounds a little bit like a Miss America question, actually, but I think you get the point at this point.
Yeah.
Right?
So let me ask you, what are things that when you see them are just complete kisses of death in the essay? Besides typos.
Yeah, it's okay. Besides typos, too much personal information that makes me cringe, or awkwardly phrased sentences. I'm like a stickler for grammar, but that's not true of everyone, by the way. It's just my own piece. But what else? Well, something that'll say, you're smart, but I'm not sure who this person is behind the smarts. You told me, I don't know who you are.
Yeah. Daisy, when you're helping students write their statements, what would you say are things you consistently see people getting wrong that you hope to kind of help them do less of?
Number one, sounding cocky or arrogant. Number two, just trying to sound smart, like having a lot of jargon, and like the professor reading this is not trying to decipher your like super sophisticated language. It doesn't give them a sense of who you are. Super boring, like similar to just writing out your CV. Like I did this, then I did that. I think what does really, really make an intriguing personal statement is when people ask themselves, like, how do I thread all of these different fabrics together? And in that, and you don't have to include everything you've ever done, but what are like the significant experiences that you've had that have impact, like what are the experiences you've had in your life that have led you on this path, your fascination with human behavior, your interest in like comforting people who are distressed, whatever it is, and kind of what piqued this interest. And then what are the core experiences that you've engaged in that either furthered you down this path or turned you in a different direction? And why are you here today? Why is this program the right fit? Why is working with you a good fit? What are the things I'm interested in doing that working with you, I can be interested in what you're doing, and B, want to take that a step further by offering you my experiences, my skills, my opportunities, and kind of expand on your work and really providing, think of it like a story, a good story in 3 pages that kind of taps all of those points.
So would you say it is a kiss of death if you don't mention a particular faculty member that you want to work with and why that research is interesting to you?
To a mentor model program?
Yes, to a mentor model program.
Yes.
That's a kiss of death.
Yes. And don't mention multiple people. I'm happy to work with A, B, C, and D. That means that you're not interested in. That
Right.
means you just want to be here.
Yeah.
Which is fine, or would have been fine 20 or 30 years ago, but it's not what this program is asking you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And to add to that, I mean, I think in our program, if you didn't specify any advisor, your application might not be read because it literally gets sent to the advisor. You
Yep.
click advisor on the website when you're submitting your application, you click who it should go to. So if you click to go to an advisor and then you indicate no interest in that specific advisor, it's strange. You would say in your application, like, under the mentorship of Dr. Barry Farber at
Yes.
Teachers College within this community, like you do specify it. Even in programs, many LIU, FDU, I think Adelphi, a lot of programs aren't officially mentor model. You're still St. John's, you're still going to mention professors whose research interests you, and you'll often mention two, and you'll indicate why. So if your statement is about wanting to work with children or underserved individuals, you'll say so-and-so's research in X and so-and-so's research in Y are particularly interesting and would give me the opportunity to blah, blah, blah. You're still often going to mention, so talk to people in the programs to find out, but I haven't even seen a statement that has no mention of any professors. You don't want to indicate to a program that's not a mentor model that you think it's a mentor model. Don't make that mistake, but do mention professors that you would like to work with. In the non-mentor models, you're still working in a lab. You're just not picking one advisor to work under them directly. You're still work with one of the professors.
Yeah. I just want to preface, I mean, if people don't know what mentor models is, I mean, you just said it, but mentor models is you get matched to a particular advisor that you work with throughout graduate school. I don't know how many opportunities there are to change your mind if the relationship isn't working down the line. We won't talk about that too much because that's not about applying. But yeah, so that's a mentor model, but not all programs are like that. Some programs you get to work with. Some programs you can choose later, like you can get there, do a rotation, and then you choose your advisor. What am I missing? That's it. Okay. Last thing about the statement, I want to go back to something that Barry said before about TMI. So a lot of students get into this field because they either have personal experience with mental illness, or they have witnessed something, or they have family members or friends or whatever, and they're interested in it because it's been in their immediate environment. That seems important to mention in the statement. I anticipate a question that's going to come to people's minds when you say TMI is cringe. It's like, well, this is really the reason why I want to get into this. How much of it is TMI? Like, how much of it can I talk about? If it's really relevant to me, shouldn't I be able to just talk about why it's important and what that experience was to me and why I want to do this? So how do you gauge whether it's cringe or not?
I don't think I have a good answer to the question. Justice Potter was once quoted. Someone wanted to give him a definition of pornography, and he said, "I can't define it, but I know it when I say it." So yeah, of course, you've been in therapy, or most people applying to clinical programs have been. And actually, most people who are applying to programs have had difficult childhoods, and they've either experienced that they've been helped by therapy, or they've been resilient for the most part to lousy life circumstances, and they think they're sensitive to others. And sure, that's a part of why they're applying. But so you want to say you've been in therapy, or you want to even mention, that you grew up with an alcoholic or abusive parent? Well, yeah, that makes sense to me. But to be a bit absurd, I don't want to know how many times you've been hit.
Yeah.
So, to be a little absurd too, assumedly everyone who's applying have been out on dates, and you're interpersonally skilled. When you're trying to let someone know who you are on your first date, you know enough to get them engaged in the conversation, but you don't want to go too far with certain things. It's inappropriate.
Yeah.
So
Daisy.
Yeah. So I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I think, if you wanted just an example, it's like having had my own experience with mental health struggles and having benefited directly from therapy, blah, 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 I realized that I'm interested versus like, I've been diagnosed with whatever disorder. And as a result, I was hospitalized. And again, this is not shaming. Is this what you want to put on your personal statement? That's actually misleading when it's only called a personal statement. It's a professional statement too. And so I think the real misconception to clarify here is what makes somebody a competitive candidate for a clinical psychology doctoral program is often certain skills. In every industry, in every discipline, there are different skills that make you competitive. Here, a fascination with human behavior, curiosity about human behavior, genuine empathy and ability to relate to people. All of these, excellent writer, good enough at math, good at research, a critical thinker, analytical, conscientious, whatever you want to say. These are the things that make someone a competitive candidate and a competitive PhD candidate and a competitive applicant. When you move the spotlight into extensively discussing your own history of trauma or mental illness or your family's, or focusing a ton on your own therapist helping you, you're also taking away the opportunity to indicate that you have all of these skills, because that's what programs are also looking at a personal statement. How do you write? How do you think? How do you cohesively understand your own narrative? How do you prove to me or show me that you're really interested in human behavior? So if you're saying I had these own struggles, so it increased my empathy for it, or it made me realize the power of human connection and relationship and being heard or listened to and understood because it transformed my own life, that's okay because you're indicating that you have these skills. But to talk about extensively your own struggles, it doesn't mean you're going to be a great therapist because you've also gone through horrible things. It's like saying, I want to work in this industry that's going to make me a lot of money because I'm extremely poor, right? Like that might motivate you to work very hard, to learn a certain skill, to be skilled in a certain way. But it's a misconception about psychology programs in general. I think that there are very specific skills that they're looking for in a candidate. And yeah, I don't know if that helps.
No, it absolutely does. This is so helpful. And I think people are still going to have questions about how much of their personal experience they should mention. This podcast is not going to answer all your questions about that. Again, rely on people who understand this process and who know you to give you advice about what should be included and what shouldn't.
Okay, and I just have to clarify, this is in no way
Not shaming,
stigmatizing anyone who has gone through trauma or experienced mental illness. It's saying, will it make you more competitive? Talking about that in a personal statement. Well, really think of it as a personal professional statement. If anything, a little bit leaning more toward the professional statement. So that's all. Is this the right place for it? That's all.